Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wine up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank J23 for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. Today in this solo sode, I want to talk to you about something very important. I think it's very important. I think you should think it's important as well. Your DNA data and what this can tell you about yourself and how you should live your life. So how this came about. So I had my DNA tested 7-8 years ago. I've been trying to use those practices or those learnings in how I approach my habits, my health habits in my life, etc. Recently, I've been working with clients, and that's one of the things I work on, or that I incorporate working with my clients, is robust testing, including their DNA. And I was going through a client just recently here, and coming up with the recommendations for their lifestyle based on the entire battery test, but including their DNA. And I realized, like, gosh, they have a lot of similarities to me. Some of the variants of genes that they have that makes them more susceptible to this, that, and the other thing. And that got me thinking. I was like, it's been a while since I reviewed mine. And I'm wondering, am I still following everything that I should be doing? Because, over time we forget, we get into other habits, other patternings, what have you. So I thought, I'm going to go back and review my original DNA data and see if there's anything I need to change for myself. So that's going to be the basis of this show. But before we get into it, why do you care about your DNA? First off, your DNA data is your blueprint that's been passed down to you from generations of your ancestors. This is the accumulation of everything your ancestors went through, how they had to adapt to their environment over centuries. And certainly, at the very least, you want to go back 2 or 3, maybe 4, 5 generations of how your ancestors, what they are bringing forward to you and what they've passed down to you. So this is very important information. It's, your DNA data is one of the 4 big tests that I start with when I work with a client in my Vitality Unleashed program. So very, very important. And you only have to do it once. You only have to do your DNA data once. And the other important thing before we really get into it is I want everyone to know that whatever it might say, you're susceptible to this, you're susceptible to that, this, that, the other thing, it's not set in stone. It's not a death sentence. Again, I've shared this many, many times. I have one of the variants of the Alzheimer gene that makes me more susceptible, about 10-15% more susceptible to getting Alzheimer's than the general population. And I have Alzheimer's in my family. I have family members that have passed away from this. So this is something that's important to me. So again, just because I have that gene doesn't mean like, oh my God, I'm getting all, no. I'm putting in lifestyle practices to mitigate that risk. And it'll be with anything else for that matter as well. So again, I just want to be perfectly clear about that. Having the information, not only from DNA, but your microbiome, your metabolites, hormones, blood work, all this lets you make decisions in a more direct and pointed fashion. Okay. But today we're going to be talking about my DNA. So I've talked about this many times before. I've done recordings, YouTube videos on, overall, what my results show. And I just shared one about, my ApoE variant of the gene, et cetera. So I'm going to be talking about here. I'm not going to go all through again because it's like literally like hours to go through all that data. Just some of the things that I came up with is like, maybe this is something I need to look at as far as a change, and maybe a little bit of backstory behind it as well. So again, I'm going to really focus in on things. And again, I made so many changes after I overcame my health journey, which I'm not going to talk about because you guys all know that if you've been following me for any time. If you're brand new to me, go back, look at some old episodes, look at my website, look at my blog posts, etc. You'll get to know more about my health journey, what I've overcome. I already implemented a lot of these changes already over time, and I continue to evolve as I continue to test myself, new science comes out, etc. So today I'm just going to talk about some of the things that got me, after reviewing my DNA data after a number of years. And there's a lot of overlap, right? Something, again, our bodies is not just like, we have a a brain system or a neurological system. We have a cardiovascular system. We have the liver system, et cetera. No, our body is one, and they all interplay with each other, and our genes interplay with each other as well. So as best as I can, I'm going to try and categorize them, but there's a lot of overlap here. So first off, cardiovascular health. So I have genes or variants of the genes that makes me very poor for handling toxic loads. And my response to inflammation is poor. So what does that mean? That means, well, actually, let me go into the first. So I have variants of the genes that makes me have a higher risk for heart attack, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. Okay. So these are all challenging things. Many people suffer, probably a lot of you, a lot of my clients do as well. I have none of those things at this point, and I don't plan to. Again, I'm putting in the practices in place. So again, I have poor response to inflammation and my very poor in handling toxic load. So one thing is I really should be supplementing with glutathione. Now we produce it endogenously ourselves, and that production decreases as we age. But I'm a poor producer of that as well, so I really should be supplementing with it. Now, as I tell many of my clients, glutathione is not the most inexpensive supplement out there. Certainly, there's a use case and an argument to be made when you really should be using glutathione, which I won't get into today. But at this point, and I have used glutathione in the past, and so has our whole family. But I like to use precursors, so NAC and ALA, alpha lipoic acid, as examples. So I take NAC every morning to start my day on an empty stomach, even before I have coffee, anything like that. And then certainly, if I'm going to have alcohol, which we'll talk about later, which is very rare for me, I will do an extra supplementation of NAC as well. Poor methylation. Many people out there are poor methylators. So my variants of the genes makes about 30 to 35% below average for methylation. So what do I need to do? I need to optimize my nutrition, which I already try and do. I need to have vitamin B rich foods. So sustainable fish, eggs. I need to reduce or avoid fried and sugary foods, which I try and do most of the time, 90% of the time, but sometimes that creeps in, or sometimes by circumstance. I also need to avoid simple carbs, such as sugar, breads, pasta, which I typically do already. I rarely have that. I mean, I do enjoy when I was sick and fat, pizza was my favorite food. Pizza still is my favorite food, but I need to be careful of that and watch that. And I'm kind of the oddball in our family, or when we have like larger settings, because I literally cut the crust off, so I'll just eat like the front end triangle of the pizza. So I get all the topping part, but I don't get none of the crust. That's just one way to cut it out, but still enjoy. Plus, there's other supplement things that I do to neutralize the gluten and the carb effect, the insulin spiking effect of that. So, but B-rich foods, so again, for methylation, is super important for me. Again, avoid or reduce alcohol. This is something it's been years and years since I've really had a lot, drank a lot or drank heavily, whatever you want to call it. But certainly in the last year or so, I even cut it down even more. So I think there's opportunity for me to even more so, or again, supplement with NAC or some other things to counteract alcohol. So I need to prioritize physical activity. I'm already doing that, absolutely. Sleep is super important for me. Now, I do put a huge priority on sleep, but I have to say, there's ebbs and flows. I'll just use last night at the time of this recording. We're just finally having, spring, warmer weather. It was actually a pretty warm day for a spring day. We didn't get the AC going in enough time to cool the room down. So the room was hot. So I had trouble falling asleep. So that was an issue. That's something that's being managed. Your sleep environment. Also, for some reason, my younger daughter is just in a stage right now where she doesn't want to go to sleep at a reasonable time for us. So that I can't go to sleep when she's still up and about doing things. So that kind of, probably hampering me by 30 minutes to an hour many nights, certainly during the week of trying to go to bed at the time I want to. So there's ebbs and flows there. Tracking cardiovascular biomarkers, super important. So I get, regular blood work done, not as often as I would like. Again, I live here in Canada, socialized medicine, trying to get, what I can get done for my taxes on a regular basis. I'm not paying out of pocket to get tested every 3 months or anything like that. That might be a little excessive, but every 6 months would be good. But I'm doing about once a year. So, so your basic blood labs, I've done ECG before. The next thing that I actually want to try, especially for cardiovascular health, is get my VO2 max done. Now, this isn't covered in my healthcare system, certainly not at my age and my health profile. Something I have to pay out of pocket, go to a specialized lab or exercise lab type of thing. But that is on the horizon. That's probably the next thing I want to do, is get my VO2 max tested. And again, for cardiovascular health, with the genes that I have, it's really important for me to supplement with omega-3, which I do. I probably could even do more of that. I try and eat a little bit of fish once a week or so. That doesn't always happen. Fish isn't, besides my older daughter, fish isn't huge with my wife and my younger daughter, so it's not part of the regular rotation. But I do supplement with omega-3 every day, but I could probably do more of that. Vitamin D, which I supplement with as well. And of course, now it's warmer weather, I can get outside, gardening, daily activities, paddleboarding, whatever, and get some vitamin D production now. And magnesium, which I take every day before bed. And I've talked about magnesium many times before. And the Bioptimizers, their magnesium that has all 7 forms of magnesium is my preferred brand, which I've quite often talked about before. So here's something, as I reviewed again my DNA data after 5-6 years when I originally had it done. Here's something I had in my mind. I don't know how I got into it, but I actually re-reviewed it again, and I was like, oh, I actually had that wrong. Not that it really matters. So I thought that I was a good responder to, so I had the genes that would make me a good responder to a statin if I should ever be prescribed one. Actually, I re-reviewed it, and I'm actually a poor responder. So taking a statin would actually be at a higher risk. So why do people get statins? If cholesterol's too high, to bring their cholesterol down, et cetera. And I do have markers. I do have variants of genes that, I have to be careful with having a wrong balance of cholesterol, et cetera. But that being said, I have other gene variants that would make a statin be deleterious to my health. So I don't know how I got that one wrong. I've been thinking that wrong way about that, had that reversed completely, but it doesn't really matter because I don't plan to ever be on a statin. So anyway, there we go. One thing that I can do better as well, and again, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these things, overlap in different areas, that I can do better before going to bed is cutting the electronics. So I'm not someone scrolling my phone right before bed or anything like that. The only time I do that is when maybe we're away on vacation or something, or not at home, and I'm all ready for bed, and the kids are still trying to get ready for bed or whatever, because we're sharing a room because we're traveling or something like that. But otherwise, I don't scroll through. But quite often, me and my wife, or even me with the whole family, we are watching, we're having family movie night or watching a TV program, in the up to a half hour right before bed. And that's probably something I should cut a little bit earlier and spend that last hour journaling or reading, like a physical book, which I prefer to do, etc. That being said, I do wear my blue light blocking glasses. So obviously, you guys, watched more than one episode. I always wear these amber ones. I have red ones as well for when it's later at night, which I could certainly incorporate more in the bedtime routine. We do use an amber or red light bulb in the side table. So at nighttime, we're not turning on the big overhead light. We're turning on red light bulbs. But yeah, I even have clear blue light blocking glasses. I essentially almost always wear blue light blocking glasses because I'm always in front of a screen. So that is something I could do a little bit better, is even though I'm wearing blue light blocking glasses, to cut the TV a little bit earlier. And I'm certainly off my computer and whatnot beforehand. So moving on to hormones. So one thing, and if you saw my last podcast, my last Solo Sode, I talked about my new experiment for body comp. So I'll refer back to that one. It was last month. But really, from a DNA point of view, I really should be focusing on weightlifting over cardio. So that's something I'm not changing the amount, but the timing and how I structure my workout routine, which is what I shared last podcast episode. So I won't get into that now. And also, I shouldn't be doing weight training more than 4 times a week. And that is something I found myself. I tend to, just for sake of scheduling, I tend to work out on the weekends, and I might, plus or minus that. So it might be like Thursday to Sunday or Friday to Sunday. Maybe if it's a long weekend and the Monday's a holiday, it might be like Friday to Monday, but they tend to be all 4 in a row. I don't, again, it's easier to schedule that way for me. I don't tend to do, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, split it up with a day of rest in between. But what I will say is if I go 4, maybe 5 days in a row of strength training, I am beat. Like I really need to recover. And that even with saying that, like I go heavy, let's say legs, right? So I do one typically, it depends on the schedule and what's going on, but I typically do one major body part, maybe 2 per session. So if I do legs on a Thursday, I'm not doing legs again really until like the following week. So I just want to share that. But regardless of what I'm doing, if I work out, if I strength train 4 or 5 days in a row, like I am beat. If I go any more than that, I actually, start to feel really exhausted, and have the potential of like, maybe getting sick. Like I really, my immune system's being compromised, that sort of thing. The other thing that my recommendation, again, when we're strength training, we want to do it when we have peak testosterone. So either first thing in the morning, sort of 6 to 8 a.m., or in the evening, like 4 to 6 p.m., kind of before dinner type of thing. It actually, for me, told me my report that I really should be doing it in the evenings. And that's based on not only just testosterone peak, but also a bunch of other genetic variants, all the things, which I won't get into all the science of that. But honestly, I like to work out fasted. So doing my workout earlier in the day, sometimes first thing in the morning, sometimes, before noon, 10, 11 o'clock is when I tend to do my workout. And that works for me. So I'm probably not changing that one. I used to work out like, after work when I worked corporately, but before dinner. So I'm totally have done that before. I really like my routine now, working out fasted. Kind of again that morning, somewhere from first thing in the morning, 6:37 to 11, somewhere in there is what works for me. So the other thing regarding hormones is, again, based on my hormone profile and how I clear estrogen and testosterone and everything, I really need to avoid a soy-based product, which I tend to do anyway. Another thing is I really should be adding back, and I played around with this before, like in my younger years, I've done whey protein and all these type of things. I've done plant-based, vegan proteins before. Right now, I'm not taking any protein powder per se, but really, actually, I really should be adding a protein source in, like a powdered protein source. So whey protein doesn't resonate with me, or any sort of dairy-based protein powder because of other sensitivities. So probably go back to a vegan protein. The other thing that I recommended is that I really should be taking essential amino acids for muscle building. And lo and behold, I do that. And our show sponsor today is actually the Kion amino acid brand. They're like my favorite brand. All the essential amino acids that you need, and super important. And they are a show sponsor. Check out the link because we do have a discount code for them as well. This is the one I recommend, one I personally use, and I recommend to all my clients. The other thing I should really be doing is taking nitric oxide precursors, so beetroot powder, et cetera, et cetera. That is something I've dabbled with in the past, not really too concerned about it, but again, reviewing my data again, I was like, it probably doesn't hurt to like just add that into, probably my coffee. I can probably even add it to my coffee in the morning. Another thing, again, based on my genetics, I really need to be careful of endocrine disruptors. So again, these are your skin products, cleaners, plastic containers, et cetera, et cetera. So it's probably been, let me think, 6-7 years since I've really essentially eliminated personal care products. I don't use deodorant. The only time I use any sort of shampoo is if I've been in a pool or the ocean, or when my hair gets cut, which is every 4 to 6 weeks. So very rarely do I even use any sort of shampoo. And then just, lightly, I basically just do a rinse off and use very little soap for my showers. And here's the thing: when your body is clean and you're not excreting toxins and your body's not full of toxins, you actually don't really smell. Yes, you're working out, you sweat, like, which I do every day, and I'm a bit of a heavy sweater. So yes, I shower every day. I have a sauna every day, type of thing. But I don't wear any deodorant or anything like that, and no one's ever complained. So again, I'm trying to keep these things out as best as possible. We try and use. I mean, we do have commercial cleaning products in the house. My wife prefers them. I try not to use them, but they are there. We don't, do anything with our lawn. Our lawn would essentially be certified organic. Now, I mean, I don't think we've used any products on the lawn for 5, 6 years now, something like that. And yes, we have plastic containers. We're trying to avoid them. Any food that's getting stored, like leftovers, ever is going in glass containers, glass jars, or Pyrex type of thing. And certainly, we're not heating anything up in plastic containers. It's always going to be in a glass dish or something like that. The other thing is, again, I kind of mentioned earlier about lactose and some sensitivities I have to dairy and that type of thing. And actually, the A1 variant of beta casein, which is a milk protein, I'm sensitive to. So really, I need to reduce dairy products, which is already low. Like I haven't had milk in like 10 years. I've really cut down the amount of cheese and stuff. But as I've been thinking about it, since I re-reviewed my results, I was like, what, it's probably a little bit of cheese, a little bit more cheese than probably is good for me, has crept a little bit back in. So I think that's something I need to take a step back and probably see, I don't really need to add cheese to this, or etc. Like, perfect example, I have an omelet almost every morning: mushrooms, onions, cheese. I was like, well, maybe I don't really actually need to put cheese in there. So that's probably an easy thing for me where I can cut cheese out, is just not putting that in my omelet. The other things, I need to be more consistent with my zinc. So I do take zinc. Again, the dosage doesn't matter because it's very specific to me. But I'll be honest, like if I run out of a bottle, it's like, oh, okay, like next time we pick it up, put it on the grocery list. My wife forgets, gets the next time. So I might go like a week or two and I don't have it. And then I get back on it, so that kind of thing. So I'm pretty consistent with it, but I'm not like, I have to have this every day. And that's probably something that I should make sure I'm having every day, is my zinc. Actually, now that I think about the time of this recording, I'm actually out of zinc, so I need to go get some. And the other thing is EGCG, or the compound found in green tea. I personally find a hard time, have my coffee in the morning. I don't want to add any extra caffeine. I'm very caffeine sensitive. I'm a poor caffeine metabolizer. Again, I know this based on genetics. I have a hard time finding space to have more tea or green tea, but super, super beneficial for me. So I need to find a way to put that back in. And I've ebbed and flowed with that in the past. And I just need to be more consistent. I need to reintroduce having green tea. And then another thing that's recommended a few different times in my report for my genetics is to add fenugreek in. Now, certainly I could have it, cooked in with meals and that sort of thing. Honestly, I've never really looked that hard at the grocery store. I don't know if it's readily available, or I could supplement with it or take a tea. So that's something I'm considering. I'm not committed to that, but I'm considering adding fenugreek in. So moving on to the immune system. And again, there's a lot of overlap in these. So no surprise from being, how sick I was from as long as I can remember until just, approximately 10 years ago. I have suboptimal immune response. And as I mentioned earlier, have poor methylation. So what does this mean? If I get an infection, if I pick up some virus, it spreads more rapidly than the average person. That totally explains why I would get so sick and be sick for so long. Now, again, I haven't really been sick in essentially 10 years, with the exception of maybe a day of a scratchy throat or a couple of days of a little bit of an extra runny nose, but like sick like I used to get for weeks at a time, I haven't been like that in like 10 years. But it's good to know that I really need to stay on top of my immune system, which I do, taking antioxidants, the food that I eat, the lifestyle practices, etc. One thing that came out of that, excuse me, I love citrus fruit, but I don't actually eat that much of it. Obviously, more so in the summer when it's more available than in the winter time. Now, I certainly supplement with like vitamin C and eat like peppers and other, vitamin C rich foods, but I really should be eating more citrus fruit. So I got to put that on the grocery list. That's like a staple, go forward, a couple, an orange a day or a grapefruit a day, something like that. The other thing is, I really think, again, from that environmental toxin load, how that really affects me. We probably as a family need to really think about upgrading our air filter. Um, we have windows open when possible. Air out things. We don't bring chemicals into the house. We don't bring dry cleaning. These type of things, or certainly like air them out in the garage, whatever, if that is. But I'm thinking of probably there's an opportunity to get, if not a whole house, then certainly like a large room air filter, probably the bedroom, to make sure that that 7, 8 hours that I'm sleeping or that we're sleeping is totally purified. And then, nice piggyback on the sleep. So actually my sleep genes are actually poor, or the variants of the genes I have are poor. So I really need to focus on not only sleep timing, but also my sleep environment. So again, blocking the noise. I wear, earplugs, eye mask, dark blackout curtains. Really need to have a good sleep environment. But also, again, that timing, as I mentioned earlier, I need to actually get to bed on time, not have distractions, not be affected by the blue light ahead of time, et cetera, et cetera. Again, have the genes to be more likely to be a light sleeper, and if getting woken up, having difficulty falling back asleep. So again, my kids are not, they're young, but they're not like babies or toddlers anymore. They're not getting up in the middle of the night very often. But if there is something that should disrupt me, I do know this about myself. I have a hard time falling back asleep. I'm taking 45 minutes, an hour to fall back asleep if I'm awoken. So again, sleep environment is super important. And again, my sleep timing. The other thing is, even if it's a healthy snack, like a piece of dark chocolate or some berries or a banana, whatever. Usually it's not a banana, but something, a piece of fruit. I sometimes will have it like within half hour or an hour of going to bed, especially if you're doing family movie night, that type of thing. But really, for optimal, I really need to like cut off anything 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. So actually, a solution for this, and this is actually the time of recording, this is actually going to happen tomorrow, is I'm going to have one of my colleagues, one of my hypnosis colleagues, do a hypnosis on me to eliminate the desire for me to eat anything after 9 p.m. And certainly this is something, of course, and then I'll, self-hypnose myself afterwards based on this. But this is something I offer to my clients as well. We can do sleep hypnosis and, how to eliminate, foods for you or any other vices type of thing. So if you're interested in that, just reach out. You guys know how to get a hold of, contact me. The other thing is regarding sleep that I might consider reintroducing, and I've dabbled with it in the past, and I didn't really see any super beneficial effect, so I kind of stopped taking it. But I might look into adding L-theanine back in as a supplement before bedtime, just to really make sure I'm relaxed. Amongst the other supplements that I do take at bedtime, as I mentioned earlier, magnesium from Bioptimizers, my favorite product. All right, moving on to executive function, so sort of brain, mood, etc. I have variants of genes that can literally make me fall into the patterns of other people. So really be susceptible to the group consensus, which means for me and my goals and my objectives, both for business, both for health, personal, etc., I really need, and I want to, and I need to socialize with people who have the habits I want. So I need to hang around with healthy people. I need to hang around people who are ambitious and want to build their businesses, and whatever the case may be. That whole saying, you're the average of the 5 people you associate with, like that's totally true. And for me, like I think everyone does, but for me, even more so because of variants of some of the genes that I have. Also, I have variants of genes that can totally lead me to burnout it could be from exercising, it could be from working too much, etc. if I don't follow proper practices. So again, healthy exercise regime, meditation, sauna, de-stressing, breath work, journaling, all these things to make sure that I don't burn out. And I really need to also make sure that I do the activity, non-work related activities that I enjoy, to keep from that burnout. So again, it can be relaxing with the family, watching a family movie. Another thing that I've been talking about for a while is really getting back to being more consistent with archery. So for those of you who didn't know, I live on an acreage. I have a big backyard. I have a compound bow. I can literally shoot a bow in my backyard and not worry about hitting any neighbors or anything like that. But I need to become more consistent. That's something I want to get back to, the consistency of it. Another thing that I need to make more of a consistent practice is listening to upbeat music every day, music that like fills my soul and gives me purpose. And I do that, but not consistently every day. And that's something I should do as well. Maybe it's just I'm doing some content, I'm doing some writing or something. I do listen to music frequently, sort of, binaural beats, sort of meditative, in the flow type of music, which is all good too. But I think I need to just really get to my playlist, the things I enjoyed when I was growing up, that type of music, and really listen to that a little bit more. So I want to make that more of a consistent practice. I have lower BDNF, or I have variants of the genes that make me produce lower BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So this is very important for long-term brain health, cognitive function, et cetera. So what do I need to do? So I need to have higher DHA. So again, from fish, flaxseed, chia seed, all sorts of seeds, et cetera, avocados, bananas, medicinal mushrooms like reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps, et cetera. So I already said I have fish oil. I eat avocado every day pretty much. Bananas, 3-4 times a week I have a banana. So for me, I'm already doing a lot of things, but I think just that reminder that I am low in producing it, or variants of the genes that make me low in producing it, I need to up my DHA. So I need to take more fish oil, be more consistent with, where it makes sense, adding, chia, flaxseed, hemp seed, et cetera, in. But I think the biggest thing for me is, and I have it in my pantry and I don't do it often enough, is the medicinal mushrooms. I have a nice blend that I like. It's a powder I can mix into tea, or make it a tea that has 12 different medicinal mushrooms, including lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, etc. So I need to get that in. So I need to probably blend it with that green tea that I'm not having either. That's probably what I need to do. Moving on to nutrition. One thing that's actually recommended for me, and I do it when it's the right food pairing, is I try and eat as much, not only prebiotic foods, I'm probably having those every day, but I'm trying to have fermented foods a couple times a week. But literally, I really should be, honestly, I need to take a page out of my older daughter's playbook. She's having fermented foods every day, if not once, at least 2 servings. I need to incorporate that as well. Probably breakfast, I need to have sauerkraut or kimchi or something like that every day for microbiome and gut health. So I already knew this, but I just wanted to reiterate, because I think many of you are like this as well, and I certainly have this in my own family, is I have variants of the genes that make me more susceptible to increased risk for insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. And like I said, I have this in my family. Both my parents have type 2 diabetes. So again, I think I have like 95% of my diet dialed in. A few things I've already talked about. I need to fine tune that again. Not, blood markers, everything's all good. Blood sugar levels, everything's all good. But again, I'm looking out 50 years into the future. So I need to even hone that in a little bit more, I think. And there's another thing that came out as well that was interesting. So typically I have very little, very protein, healthy fat rich first meal. So again, I intermittent fast. So, where that's somewhere 11 to 2, somewhere I have that first meal. Rarely have a snack. If I do, it's typically a banana or some seeds, an apple, whatever, something like that. And then my evening meal or dinner is, again, some protein source, and then, like my carbs, my main carb source, broccoli, big salad, sweet potato, whatever the case, depends. So I tend to have that heavier carbs, and again, it's healthy carbs, but that non-starchy, non-grain carbs typically, in the last meal of the day to help with sleep. But actually, based on variants of my genes, I probably should be having carbs earlier in the day with that first meal. So this is something I'm considering. I just don't know how it fits in with the family dynamics, because typically dinner is the one meal that we all eat together, or quite often we all eat together. So I'm not sure that's going to work. I'm not sure if I want to move my broccoli and my big salad earlier in the day. I'm debating this one. I don't know. I'll keep you in check, but that is a recommendation that I probably should do. Again, to enhance sleep and keep, blood sugar down or lower as I head into going to bed, a couple hours after eating dinner. So that's something that I need to consider. Anyway, that's kind of just the highlights. Again, that's not my whole DNA data, of course, obviously. These are just some of the things that were like ahas that either I need to incorporate, I need to think differently about, I need to consider. And it's going to be totally different for you, right? And again, that's why, I just want to reiterate what I said at the beginning. Your DNA data is not, it's not a life sentence if it gives you something bad, or, an absolute, right? There's a lot of different factors that go in, right? And again, that's why I use a whole battery of tests: DNA, microbiome, metabolites, hormones potentially, your blood work, etc., all in combination to see what is the right course of action for you at this moment. That being said, like I said, your DNA is a blueprint. This is the genetic material that's been passed down to you for generations from your ancestors, and we shouldn't discount that. Now, depending where you're at and what you might be suffering with, there's other tests that might be priority first. Again, in the Vitality Unleashed program, we do all 4, or even if we add in hormones, we'll do all 5 tests at one time and compilate it. But sometimes for whatever reasons, resources, what have you, and what someone this might be suffering with, we're going to focus. If you can only do 1 or 2 tests, DNA probably is not the first. Probably number 3 that I would do, but it's super important. So anyway, that's just mine. If you've got any benefit of this, any inclination, any insights, fantastic. If you want to learn more about the Vitality Unleashed program, or even just like, what's my preferred DNA testing company, etc., reach out to me. And again, don't forget to check out today's show sponsor, which is Kion. They have a whole bunch of products. Their essential amino acids is my favorite. And it also comes in a powder form if you want to mix that up, but I like the pill form. And yeah, definitely check them out. The link is there. You get 10% off all their products. Sometimes they're sales, sometimes you might even get 20% off. But yeah, so I'd love to hear from you. If you got value out of this, or you're just curious, reach out to me on the socials or email me. I'm not hard to find. Anyway, I'll wrap it up for today. Remember, exceptional results for the exceptional you. Till next time, I'm going to throw it to J23. He's going to play us out with some music. Take care, everyone. Kion amino acids, essential amino acids, actually all Kion products, but of the products that I use, their essential amino acids are the ones I love the most. Why? Because they actually change their formula when new research comes out. I think they've changed the formula twice now. I use this every day, certainly days I'm working out, just to get those essential amino acids. Again, it's not necessarily about protein. You obviously need the protein, but the protein really breaks down into amino acids, and you need the essential amino acids, not branch chain. Those are garbage. You need essential amino acids, and Kion is my favorite brand, and they are a sponsor of today's show. This episode is brought to you by Optimizers. Magnesium Breakthrough. This is a product I've been using with, and our family's been using for, 4 years already. What I love about it, it has 7 different forms of magnesium in it, all the forms that your body needs for all 400 processes that your body needs magnesium for. Most magnesium supplements have 1 form and usually a crummy form of magnesium. This has all 7 forms that your body needs. So click the link and get at least 10% off. Sometimes there's specials and you even get more. So check out Optimizer's Magnesium Breakthrough.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company